I've had people ask if I could explain what an autoimmune reaction actually is. And that's what it is that the immune system begins viewing a protein on a surface of your cells as a foreign invader. And the immune system begins to mount an immune reaction to the protein. So that's not a natural phenomenon. The immune system we've evolved to have immune tolerance. So when that happens, there is usually a trigger. I always ask, what's the triggering factor in this situation? And what factors are allowing this situation to perpetuate? So the triggering factor in autoimmune diseases is most commonly an infection. So you could have a bacterial infection or a viral infection, for example, and the immune system is mounting an immune reaction to proteins on the surface of the bacteria or the virus. And then through a process called molecular mimicry, those same antibodies can cross-react to our own proteins because they look similar. So that's probably the most common cause of autoimmune diseases, is that there is an infection that triggered it. So in this case, what can you do? You can identify the infection, which, you don't always know for sure which infection is doing it. But if you test the person, use your own clinical judgment, test the patient for different infections. And then if you find one, you treat that and you see if it helps the autoimmune disorder. It often will. For example, ulcerative colitis or Crohn's are gastrointestinal autoimmune disorders, and they often have an infectious underpinning with imbalanced microflora in the gut. There are bacteria, for example, that are known to trigger autoimmune diseases that can live in your colon and just be part of your microbiome. And when treated, it can often help to reduce the autoimmune reaction against the intestinal wall, like you see in those diseases. There are rheumatological autoimmune diseases like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis that also can have, microorganisms in the gut as an underpinning. There's multiple sclerosis. It's commonly known can have a viral underpinning, like cytomegalovirus, for example, HHV6. The list goes on. So there's autoimmune diseases in the brain that can have an underpinning of Lyme disease or Mycoplasma pneumoniae or virus. So think infection when you have an autoimmune disease. The other triggers that you can see are, I would say, food allergies. So by far and away, the most common underlying food allergy that can trigger an autoimmune disease is an allergy to gluten. This has been well described in the scientific literature. So, for example, you can have neurological autoimmune diseases based on eating gluten if you are allergic to it and you have a gene that kind of predisposes you to celiac disease. So if you, let's say, didn't know that and you were eating the food, it could perpetuate a neurological autoimmune disease. We also see a gluten underpinning oftentimes in psoriasis, which is another autoimmune disease, and certain rheumatological other diseases like even rheumatoid arthritis. So think about food allergies as well. Infections may be number one, food allergies may be number two. So what's number three? I would say a lesser known cause of autoimmunity are toxins. So sometimes, for example, you may have mercury amalgam fillings in your mouth, and the mercury could drain down into the lymphatics and then tag proteins on your thyroid, for example. And then that can cause an autoimmune thyroid disease. So most common cause of autoimmune thyroid disease is definitely gluten, though, hands down. Hashimoto's thyroiditis is connected to gluten most of the time. So But toxins play a role as well because they tag your proteins, and all of a sudden the immune system says, those look a little different. Now they start reacting to them. So in the future, hopefully we won't even be talking about autoimmune diseases as like you have an autoimmune disease and end of story. We'll be saying you have an autoimmune process happening. Why is that? What are the triggering factors and what are the perpetuating factors? So we've just talked triggering factors. Now, what's perpetuating factors? Usually adrenal hormone deficiency, because these hormones modulate the immune system. And when they're low, the immune system is more prone to autoimmunity. So we want to ideally keep the adrenals very, very healthy to keep the immune system balanced. And finally, essential fatty acid deficiencies. If you've got essential fatty acid deficiencies or imbalances, that also affects the immune system and can sometimes make the immune system more kind of pro-inflammatory and prone to autoimmunity. So when you understand the basis of these diseases, you can really understand how you might be able to approach them to reverse them. I've done it a lot of times with patients, and it's definitely possible.